some people do, but I think far more people say it than know what it means. And so basically, there are foundational truths of business that exist, and the conditions of the environment will change. And so you have to apply those truths to whatever the current condition is. And so that's what I try and tease out with the books and the stuff that I put out in content. But at the end of the day, you have an input of time, like zooming all the way out. If the goal, assuming that your goal is to make money, okay, like, and this is just a purely economic business goal, then you have time, which is the primary currency that you trade it, and you make dollars over a period of time. And so I tend to reject the idea of like never trade time for dollars or anything like that, because everyone trades time for dollars. It's just some of us are more efficient at it than others. But even exchanges that occur that just are not denominated in time still occur over time. And so you have this foundational unit of time, which you're going to give in. What we're seeking is the highest return on that time. And so there, within a business context, there's kind of three levels of things that have to occur in a business. You have to, attract attention, you have to convert attention, and then you have to deliver something for that attention. And in each of those things, you want as much leverage as possible. So you want as little time as possible required to get the most output. And so I have built acquisition.com on basically two primary theses, which are in the logo, which is, this is a fulcrum for leverage.
For people that can't see, it's like a triangle.
Yeah, so it's like a triangle, or the Illuminati, because that always gets brought up. Yeah, right. So we've got the fulcrum for leverage, and then inside of it, you have supply and demand. And I see those as the two foundational principles of business. And so, which is, you need supply and demand to have a business, and then leverage to get as much out of it as you possibly can. And so, when you're looking at the assets that you have, assets can also be skills, resources, what you have available to you. Now, if you have nothing, then all you have is your brain, your hands, and the time that you have that you can put towards learning something, which is why I'm a big fan of skill acquisition as one of the primary things that you can do is educating yourself. And not formally educating, but informally or alternatively educating yourself on super tactical things. Once you get over the fear, then you start asking, okay, how do I let people know about my stuff? And what do I let them know? Right? And so you have to have something to sell, which is the offer. And ideally, you want the offer to have as much leverage as possible. Like, so if you sold software or you sold media, those are things that you can cut once, sell 1,000 times. If you have a conversion mechanism, it's like you can't have it be automated like a checkout page or some sort of video sales letter or something like that where people just buy without a phone salesperson. If you add a phone salesperson, there's less leverage. Not to say that's wrong, but you want to have the highest leverage opportunity. And then from the deliverability perspective, I kind of talked about deliverability first, but from the advertising perspective, if you reach out to people one-on-one, that's lower leverage than being able to make one piece of content that a million people see, right? And so over time, you go from low leverage to high leverage, where you have the same inputs, but you just get significantly more for your output. And that fundamentally is like, if we're reasoning out from first principles, how do I get, said differently, the question that someone I think is really asking is, how do I get the most for what I put in? And you have to reason within your current context of your skills and your resources and your assets in order to derive that solution for you.
So if someone walks up to you in the street and they say, Alex, what idea should I pursue? I've just quit my job.
Yeah, right. So I would say business ideas typically come from one of three Ps. So it comes from a pain that you're currently experiencing, a past profession, so the thing that you just quit or some of the jobs that you just quit, or a passion. Mm-hmm. So it's something that you're inherently interested in that you would spend your time doing anyways. Some skill that you learned while you were in the workforce, which by the way is one of the most proven ways of making money, because the economy has already showed you that people are willing to exchange money for that specific job. And so in the world of gig economies and solopreneurs, every business can be dismantled into just jobs being done. And all of those jobs can be fractionalized. So anybody, like, we look at any business, you've got sales, you've got marketing, you've got customer success, you've got customer support. If you want to differentiate that, you've got product, you've got design, you've got web pages. There's so many different components to a business. You just need to learn one of them. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, boom, you have a skill that you can trade for money that you don't have anybody else to report to. And then pain is usually, I think, in some ways, sometimes one of the biggest drivers is like you had an eating allergy and you couldn't find pancakes that dealt with your specific eating allergy. And you bet that there's a decent amount of other people with that allergy that also like pancakes. And so then you make pancakes that are delicious and amazing that also cater to people with that food allergy. And then all of a sudden, like, you have a business based on pain.
And why does that matter?
What
the
part?
Pain part.
I
What,
think
what
that
leverage and advantage does it give you for the next 5 years?
I think that deep knowledge of the prospect is paramount or very important for creating exceptional products. And you can either do that by doing a ton of research or by being the prospect. And there's a certain amount of like visceral feel that you'll know. Like if someone wants to make a nose product for breathing, I have tried every product since I was in 8th grade. So it's been 20 plus years, 30, whatever, a lot of years, that since then. And I've tried everything. And so I know the pros and cons of every product that exists in the market. And I can tell, because, and I've done, it's not like, oh, I tried it for a day. It's like, I'll try things for a month at a time. And so I have so much time exposure to this problem that I have a lot of nuance in my opinion on what's wrong with the solutions. So I can formulate a way better hypothesis on how to fix it.
And that hypothesis will be for an investor so much more compelling because you lead with a story as opposed to logic.
I met the guy who invested in Regal Cinemas, which is probably the biggest chain in the U.S. And it was when there was a guy who had just one theater, and it became now obviously COVID has disrupted that business, but for 20 years whatever they crushed. And he said it was so weird to say that cinemas are going to make a comeback because they'd kind of been on a downturn or something like that during the time that he was making the investment. And he said, the reason I decided to invest in it was because this guy knew everything about the business down to how much the cost of a kernel of popcorn was. And he just knew it so like the back of his hand that he was like, this guy can't fail. Like he just knows too much about this business to not have it work. And so in investing in, making $1 gazillion. And so, but I think that deep understanding, and if you look at all of these, the passion things, you'll have deep understanding because you're spending all of your discretionary time pursuing this passion. The pain, you have a deep understanding of the problem and the prospects going through it because you've experienced it probably for years. Now, the professional one, I would say, is a bit of a shortcut because if you're quitting the job because you don't like it, and then you say, I'm now going to do this for myself, well, you're okay. Well, the one proven point about that is that one is proven to work from an economic perspective. You will be able to make money doing that because you already have made money doing it. These other two are less proven, but sometimes have significantly more upside.
When you were talking about the breathing example with your nose, it's funny because if you had sat down and said to me, Steve, I've made these like breathing nose strips,
Yeah.
they are better, they're 20% more durable, they
Yeah.
expand your nostrils by 20%. It is multiples less compelling than you telling me that story you just said about being a kid, having breathing problems, trying to solve this problem for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that story you told versus the sort of rational, logical approach or the benefits
Yeah.
approach is your marketing campaign for the next 5 years on TikTok and Instagram. It's I had a problem, I solved it, I tried everything and solved it for myself. There's almost like nothing more compelling and believable.
No.
We see that in Dragon's Den. We'll be sat there listening to these pitches all day. Then
Yeah.
someone will come in and say, I had ADHD,
Yeah.
I tried energy products, they all made me crash, so I went out and solved this problem for myself. And we're on edge because
Yeah.
we almost can't argue with it
Yeah.
at that point, you know?
Yeah. So Bezos has this great framework where he talks about missionaries and mercenaries. And so it's kind of like you have the guy who says, okay, I looked at market trends and this is a growing category. And, I surveyed people and this was the result that came back. And so I believe that if we time this product right at this point in the market, we'll achieve huge, a mass adoption, blah, 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 blah. And it's like logicking your way through. And to be fair, some people do make it work. But the missionaries are the ones that end up making the most money because like they do it sure for the money because the business has to have some economic engine behind it, but really because they viscerally experience this problem and don't want anyone else to deal with that problem either. And so like if I were to tell that story, like you were saying, like when I was in 8th grade, it was the first year that I started really noticing I couldn't breathe at night. And so I learned how to fall asleep with my hand on my face like this so that my nostril would, so I could fall asleep and my hand would stay. Because there's no actually other, because you can't hold your, because you fall asleep, right? And so if I fall asleep with my hand like this, right? Like I'm on the couch and I fall asleep like that, it keeps my nostril open and I can fall asleep and it doesn't move. And so that's how I learned how to sleep for years before founding just like simple nasal strips and things like that. But there's tons of problems with those solutions that exist right now that I won't get into. But maybe someday I'll make a nasal product.
I mean, you've literally just delivered.
Yeah, pitches. I can tell you if you put every product in front of me that exists right now, I can tell you what's wrong with it because I've tried literally all of them. Not like I'm pretty obsessive, and so like I've tried all of them.
You're missing an opportunity here, Alex.
I've tried the ones from Europe. I've tried not just US. Like I've tried every product that exists on Amazon. I've tried all the ones from foreign countries, every fan or follower who sends me a product that is a nasal company that's new, I will try the product. I still do. And there's yet to be one that has truly solved it.
I mean, you should. I mean,
All right, I'll stop. But I think in some ways, so this is actually a really good meta concept here, which is that if you want to be compelling, a demonstration or a model is always more compelling than anything else. And so me even going through that entire narrative, right, is taking everyone else who's been listening to this on some journey